What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another quick, brief athlete talk. Again, this is meant for the coached athletes, but I leave them public because plenty of people get good information out of this stuff. So a lot of it applies to what the coached athletes are going through right now, and we have a little bit of a quick Metal Monday shout out. We just finished, as we're recording this, it's week 24 of 2025. It's a Monday, and we just had a couple athletes hit up 70.3 Eagleman. So congratulations. Way to battle that choppy swim. Way to get through that flat bike course, which, again, speaking to one of the athletes, is funny because he trains mostly hilly where he lives, and he had the kind of underestimated what a flat course can do. Because remember, those flat courses are pedaling nonstop, basically for 56 miles on that 70.3. Kind of burns you up in a whole different way out there. It doesn't really give you the break that you need, so you may get more of that muscular fatigue induced on there because you don't have the surges and recoveries that you may have on a rolling course or where you're training out there. So congrats to everybody. And again, it's I haven't been able to touch base every week on these short athlete talk videos because we're busy. We're ripping and rolling with the long form content, the podcast. Another one just came out today, and I just recorded another one. And I'll give you a little kind of, I guess, tip or I guess a little hint on what we were talking about was, there you go, boom. We were talking all about electrolytes and sodium. I have a whole bunch of stuff right here that I was going over during the video. So be sure to check that out. It's probably going to come out next Monday. And that's all about electrolytes, sodium, and endurance sports, and how I use the different products that I have, why I use different products. It's not just a one-size-fits-all approach when you're talking about sodium and electrolytes, so make sure you check that out next Monday. A couple of the things that I have been taking note of here. So what I do every week is I create a little note section on my phone for the next week, and as I have conversations with the athletes, I pop in a little note there on things that I want to dive in a little bit more on into these videos, because it will help. If one person's got a question, chances are somebody out there, whether it's a coached athlete or not, is going to have one of these questions as well. So that's why we're kind of hitting in on this. And as well, check out, it's on the Facebook page. I did a podcast interview with Coach Steve Moody from Ireland about Muscleman 70.3. That race is coming up soon, so check that out. We went over the entire course. We did some tips, tricks, and strategies on there. I did that race back in 2023, and it was very fun and enjoyable, and I have a bunch of athletes doing it, so I was privileged to be on that with Coach Steve Moody, and was able to kind of have fun with him for a little bit, 45 minutes on there. So let's get down to the notes that I had for this. A lot of athletes this year have been getting these aerobic workouts, again, that bulk base, 80% of your running, right? And we mix in this workout called strides in there. Post about it a bunch of times in our athlete app, but I want to just kind of put it out there for everybody. What is a stride? What is the difference between a stride, a sprint, a surge? These aren't interval workouts. Those are separate workouts. Those are workouts that have defined periods of intensity with defined periods of recovery by X amount of times for X amount of duration or distance. And those are workouts. That's that 20% we talk about, that hard stuff that we're really going to push ourselves on. And we'll talk about those after that, because that's actually another topic of this talk, as well as executing a speed workout properly. But let's rewind. Let's talk about this. When you see this workout that shows up, zone 1-2 aerobic run with strides, what are we doing? Well, we just want to break up the monotony of running a little easier, because what happens when we run a little easier all too often, our form just kind of starts to diminish a little bit. We kind of sit back into our little bit of a gait that we have out there when we're running, and we just kind of get a little sloppy over time, because it's just a lot of miles, it's a lot of volume, especially if you're in this marathon plan. And what the stride does is it gives you a very short period of time, 10, 15, 20 seconds, depending on the workout. When that counts down, we're not sprinting to max capacity. We're not treating this as an all-out 20-second sprint, because that's now becoming a separate workout altogether. Is what it is, when that watch counts down and you hit 20 seconds, take that 20 seconds or so on that stride to just slowly increase your acceleration over probably 10 or 12 seconds, slowly building better run form. You're starting to lean into your stride. You're starting to elongate a little bit. You're starting to pick your feet up off the floor a little bit, as if you were maybe going to go start sprint or do a hard interval. But by the time you reach your proper form, which happens in about 10 to 15 seconds, you start to deploy the parachute a little bit. So it's a nice crescendo of up and then back down to your easy pace on the other side. It just resets the habit of what good form is, because then you're going to go into the next mile or so, or next 5 or 8 minutes, whatever you have in the workout, of just being a more properly a proper formed runner as you're continuing on with that. So that's really what we're looking for in that stride. It's not meant to make your heart rate go up. It's not meant to run a 100-meter PR or something like that. It's really just meant to break the bad form habits we sometimes get when we are running too easy a lot. And it also just helps our efficiency, again, building that form. So the more we work on our form and our techniques, use that time that you have that stride to really work on your form and what your body's doing and your arm swing is doing, and just work on that as we go. If we talk about sprints, what is a sprint? A sprint is an all-out effort for a certain given of time. And this is something that we may work into the end of a workout or the end of an interval workout when the bulk of what we needed to do was done. And now we want to work on some very short, high-end, max critical velocity speed with best form possible. And again, there's reasons why we might add that into somebody's workout and run, but just understand that a stride is not a sprint. So when you see that pop up on your calendar or your workouts, or you see other people doing that, it's not a sprint. It's not an all-out effort. It's just again, that effort may change. If someone's running, say, a 9:30 easy zone 2 pace, they may peak at like a 7:30 or a 7:45 during that stride, a peak just for really like a second, and then come back down. It's not an all-out sprint. If we're all of a sudden running this and peaking out like 3 minutes faster and running like our fastest that we can ever even run a mile in, like that's not the point of it. That would be reserved for a different type of workout. So that's really what we mean by strides and how to execute that properly. And then as well, there's another thing or another workout out there, which is surges or fartleks, which is speed play is really what fartlek stands for. And that could be an unstructured workout where we are just going out there. We got an hour to do, and I say, just give me 5 or 6 surges or fartleks out there. They don't have to be set. They can be random. So I always recommend at least 10 minutes or a mile warm up once you're out there. These are just going to be simulating some times in races when you may be surging. You may be trying to pick up your pace. You may be trying to catch or close the gap with another competitor. And you may pick a spot out there where you're running down the block and then you see 3 or 4 houses away, there's a big SUV in the street, and you say, that's where we're going to run to. And then you're just surging, you're building speed. Again, we're not sprinting because you don't want to be all totally gassed after that. You're just changing gears a little bit during your run. It's a longer stride. So you're actually going to reach a speed and then continue with that speed for a little bit before you come back down to the pace you were. And these are typically kind of like unstructured. They're not really set in the workout. It's kind of wherever it fits best on your route that day, that's the place to get it done in. And that also, again, is going to help you with your run form and a little bit of efficiency with that. But we're not looking to completely jack our heart rate up, because if we do that during an easy run, it's no longer an easy run. It's a different type of workout. So we don't want to ruin our workout for the day by doing these improperly. And real quick, we're going to talk about executing a speed workout. So let's talk about we'll use very easy numbers, and this is literally going off the top of my head, is somebody who has 10 minutes warm up, followed by a session of intervals in the middle with a 10-minute cool down at the end. Pay attention to what your warm up, specifically your warm up pacing is, if it's by pace, and we have that built in based off some prior zones there, is if it says, hey, run, warm up, 9:30 to 10 minutes per mile, that's maybe low zone 2, just kind of getting the heart rate up and the blood flowing. And I analyze that and see that you're out there running like an 8:45 or a little too fast on that warm up. Chances are you're already dipping now into your energy reserves for that workout, and you're not going to be able to possibly hit the intervals that we're looking to hit during your interval session. And now say we have 2 buys, 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off of recovery, 6 times. Or let's go 8 times on this. If that 2-minute interval, let's just call it that we're supposed to do it at 7:30 per mile for those 2 minutes, and our recovery is supposed to go back down to 9:30 per mile. And you dive into that first interval way too hot because you're all cranked up and ready to go for this workout because you've been balancing your intensity properly with this 80-20 system. You may start to fall off on the later intervals because you went too hard. You've now like kind of set this like, oh man, I went out like a 6:45 average on that first one. I was way too hot. Like, the purpose of the interval sessions is not to run as fast as you possibly can and then fall off at the end and hit maybe a PR on one of these 400 meters that we might be doing. It's about understanding what it is. Like, if you're looking at your pace for the day and say, all right, I'm supposed to hit these sessions at 7:30 per mile in these 2-minute increments for 8 times. Now we're talking about it's 16 minutes worth of work because we're doing 2 minutes by 8 minutes, 16 minutes worth of work at this 7:30 minute per mile pace. Like, that's the work for this session. And we want to see if we can come within that 7:20 to 7:40 range, really for like all of these intervals. And then we assess afterwards how it went. If it was hard to meet those 7:30 per mile and we all just fell off a little bit, cool, awesome. Maybe next time you'll just be a little more well rested, you'll understand how to execute more properly, and we can try and hit it again the next time. If we go too hard through a lot of these, maybe we need to potentially readjust zones. Maybe you're over pacing now these workouts and you feel like that was easy, that was great, I smashed those paces, I did 7:20s for each one across the board, and you were able to hit all the paces for the day. Then maybe you're getting a little fitter and we maybe want to do another threshold test and readjust zones. The common things that may happen on these workouts is you kind of just go out too hot, you fall off, or you really hold back too much on the first 2, 4, 6 intervals, and you're like, I only got 2 left, and you run those at 6:45. What that tells me is that you still had way too much left in the tank. Like, a perfect way to do these, and especially if you look at the graph, is as your watch starts counting down, if it's just built into the watch, you got 5 seconds. When you first hear the first beep to start that interval, start your acceleration into the interval. Don't wait till the last beep, because what that's going to do is by the time the interval starts, you'll have already been close to getting where you need to be for that pace, and you can hold it off. And as well, when you hear the 5-second beep on your watch at the end of the interval, try and hold steady on the pace until the last beep and then stop your interval, because then on the graph it's going to show the full 2 minutes, hopefully at the intensity we were looking for. And we're looking for a steady intensity over the 2 minutes, not this bell curve. And I see that a lot on interval session. It's just like build to the minute and then we fall off because we can no longer sustain the pace because we wound up tapping out at like a 7 minute per mile in the middle, which wasn't called for. You may have hit 7:30 average for the interval, but it's because you went out at 7, like you peaked at 7 and fell down to like 7:45 on the tail end of it, or an 8 on the tail end of it. So the average was 7:30, but it wasn't 7:30 for 2 minutes, which is what we're working to do. We're working on pacing during these interval sessions. So take them for what they're worth. Don't take them for, all right, I just got to do 6 or 8 really hard efforts as hard as I can and blow up out there. Like, really look at the paces, especially if we have set values and set zones for you, and create a game out of it. Like, try and understand pacing, see how it feels. Look at your watch 30 seconds in. Ooh, I'm at 7:45 a mile. I need to pick it up a little bit. All right, I'm at 7:30 right now. Let me just hold where I'm at. Don't think because there's 30 seconds left in the interval that I'm going to drop the hammer and just finish this interval as fast as I can. A nice graph for me when I'm analyzing somebody's speed session would be, there's usually a little bit of range within the warm-up, and it's a little easier warm-up than usual. I want to see that range in that warm-up, meaning you're holding yourself back a little bit. See good steady intervals, the intensity that we're trying to hit for the day, for the duration for each one. And then another problem is, yes, I understand it's hard to slow down on the recoveries, but really, as soon as that watch finishes beeping that 5th time at the end of that interval, I call it deploying the parachute. Pull your strap, pull the parachute out, really slow yourself down. And you really got to slow yourself down more than usual, because if it's hard to get back to, like, say, maybe that 9:30 for that 2 minutes and enjoy that 2 minutes. If it's a 2 minute recovery, like, get back down to that recovery. Running faster than your recovery time is not going to do you any good. It's not going to let you recuperate in that short time frame to hit that next 2-minute interval. And then if I see every interval looking pretty good for those 2 minutes, your recovery is kind of, you went down to the zone you needed to be in. You didn't have to stop and walk if that wasn't called for. There is times to completely stop during a workout after each interval, depending on the type of interval we're doing. But for the most part, a lot of these intervals have a recovery period of a light jog. If you have to stop, get your breath, and walk for a few, you probably did the interval too hard. And then once you're done at the end, once that last interval is done, number 8 is done, checked off, and you're on your recovery and then your cool down, slow it down. Like, the workout is done. Nothing you do right now is going to gain you anything. You already did the work that you needed to do. Don't worry about if your average pace is 8:05 right now and you want Strava to say 7:59 for the entire workout. Like, get it out of your head. Don't worry about it. The work is in the intervals. I love when I have a pace show up from an interval workout that's kind of just looks like a good zone 2 run. They don't realize, like, I really slowed down my recoveries and smashed the intervals, because if you click the workout, you'd be able to see, like, whoa, he was running like 6-minute paces for 2 minutes, but what, his workout was 8:01 per mile. That's nothing special. Who cares? Like, get over it. Like, the work is in the training session. This is not a race. This is a specific session with specific things that we're supposed to get done. This one's going a little longer than usual, but I really wanted to hammer that home. I'm actually going to work on, at some point, a full long-form content of different types of workouts, how to execute your workouts, and the importance of that, and treating each session for what it's worth right then and there. And the last part of this is trust in the process. We had a few new athletes come on board over the last 4 to 6 weeks. I thank you for trusting me in your journey right now. As you get connected to a coach, it's typical for things to start slowly. We have to assess what you can tolerate volume-wise, especially if we don't have a large history to look at. We can't just kind of throw you right in there full hardcore on a plan. We have to see how you respond to things. And then when you're ready, we put you into zones. We do some testing. Then it may take a couple weeks to make sure that those zones are in place. But I can assure you, and if you reach out to some of the athletes that have been on board for a while or multiple seasons, is once we get like established zones, it's just a firing system. It's just an engine that keeps running, and it's just workouts go on. You do the workout, especially if you're having the consistency that you need. You're checking the boxes, you're checking the weeks, your fitness is building, you're getting closer to race day, you feel confident, you're hitting all your sessions, and then boom, the magic happens on race day, and finally that trust the process, that buy-in finally happens where you're like, I trust it now because we went through it, and I kind of checked my ego at the door. Didn't really care about what each training session was doing. It was about what each training session's purpose was. And once you get to that part of your training and endurance is when you really can unlock your potential for what you can really establish for yourself. So thank you, everybody. I hope everybody has a great week. Summer Run Series here on Long Island has started today. So if I see you guys out there, awesome. And then that's it. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep balancing that life 1 mile at a time. Catch you on the next one.